Hello, and welcome to the RealRam fam. On my channel, I intend to provide you with a safe platform to discuss the intersections of your entire being, to be able to be comfortable in your own skin, in mission or position. There is no one like you, and we all have a purpose and message. I, for one, am a black woman, mother of four, a military veteran, and a wife, and a social worker, just to name a few. From my channel, I hope that you learn more about military families and social workers. Three of the social work values are my aim in each video: importance of human relationships, dignity and worth of the person, and social justice. No matter what you initially think when you hear social worker, there is more to the profession. Trust me. Stay locked in by subscribing to the channel, and be sure that you hit that notifications bell so you don't miss any new uploads. Without further ado, on to today's episode. What's going on, fam? How y'all doing out there?
Good. Thank you. Trying to get my lighting right. I think I look a little funny with y'all right now.
Yeah.
As a friendly reminder, our music was provided to me by my son and his musical group, Taking Back September. Yeah, go ahead and look them up on YouTube as well as SoundCloud. And I'm looking at them right now. I'm sorry, I lost focus. Well, I got two guests with me today. Today we're gonna continue on part 2 on relationships and expectations. That if you watched the previous video, you saw that I have a guest, Big Mike, with me. One of y'all's echoing. We had a great conversation on that one. We went a little bit here and there and whatever. So today I'm gonna be a little bit more focused. So I have my friend Darryl Moch with me, who is a therapist, and I have Hatsheput. She is a social worker. There's more to them, and I will let them introduce themselves. But we're gonna start off with my introductory question. So I'm not y'all already know what a social worker is. So next question is, what is you guys' birth order? And do you think that you fit the statistic?
Say that one more time.
Stereotype.
Yeah. Say the question again. I missed the first part of it.
What is your birth order? And do you think you fit the stereotype?
Oh, okay. Of the birth order, you're saying?
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, that is an interesting question, and I had to answer that question in a variety of ways because I'm multiple things for different reasons. So I'm my mother's only child, my father's oldest child, and I am my grandmother's youngest child. Even though I have cousins that are younger than me, I was primarily raised in the house with my grandmother, along with my mother and my uncles. And so I was raised much more like a sibling to them at times, other than my mom, being mom when she was being mom. So and I fit the stereotypes? Probably in different ways for all three of them. So I would say that my family would say that I probably got away with a lot more things than they did, but I also didn't do a lot of things that they probably did to get in trouble when I was little. And but with my mom, I'm nowhere near spoiled. And as the oldest, there is an expectation, I think. But so that's that.
Okay. So I'm actually my parents' only child, but my mother was married before she married my father. So I had an older brother. And then when I was 14, my father got married again. So I have a younger stepsister, excuse me. I would probably talk about the time when I was my father's only child. My father raised me. My mother, they separated. She took my brother, and so my father raised me. So they would say like only children are considered spoiled. My father raised me very boy-like, so I'm not sure if I wasn't spoiled by him. But when my grandmother, I used to spend my summers in South Carolina with my grandmother and her daughter, my father's sister. So I was spoiled when she was in DC coming to get me. She would prohibit him from doing like the discipline, like leave that baby alone, And my dad, would look at her like, okay, yeah, she's only going with you for a couple of months. I have to, but then she turned into this other person once I went down there with her. Then I got the discipline. I would call him. He's like, nope, I'm coming to get you in September. So I don't know if I was necessarily spoiled by him, but definitely by my grandmother.
Okay. Well, okay, somebody is watching this on another stream, and y'all turn it down or mute it or something. So I am my mother's only child. I'm my father's second, but my baby sister is 17 years younger, so that's way underneath me. But do I fit the stereotype of an only child? Yeah, I do. I was materialistically spoiled, but I'm responsible, independent, like all of that stuff that you say about an only child. That's me. I wouldn't really say I'm selfish, but at times I'm selfish and stubborn at times. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about, like I said, relationships and expectations. The fact that you guys are social work / therapists and other things that you are, I will let you all take this time to introduce yourselves in however manner, all your many accolades that you as it relates to today's episode.
Go ahead, my queen. The queen, go first.
Okay. So my spiritual name is Hatsheput Mari Amen-Ra El. My government name is Jacqueline Brown. I have been in the career of social work for 20 plus years. I did most of my work in a school system in Prince William County schools for about 15 years. Recently, I now work as a program manager for a collaborative in Washington, D.C. And we work alongside, we collaborate with schools in Ward 7. You said my accolades as it relates to tonight.
Today's episode, whatever you wanted to say.
As a social worker, it was interesting because at one point in my life, I wanted to get out of being a social worker. But I guess it's probably been my life's calling. But I feel through my social work, it has helped me also to develop my passion of really wanting to help my people. So I'm also a playwright and an actor, although I haven't been on stage in a long time. So my plays are centered around the building of our melanated or Black people. So through the stories, you can hear the social, I guess the social work aspect of it. And I would say right now that's like my biggest accomplishments. Yes, I had accomplishments as a social worker for 20 some odd years. I have. But I believe in 2016 is when I started this spiritual journey. So it's a lot of things that I might have thought or believed in my career. It's taken a different turn for me since I've been on this journey. So it's not that I don't enjoy it. As a matter of fact, I'm studying, although I've been lazy. I'm studying to get my license just to have an accomplishment for myself. But that's very, I wasn't prepared for that question.
It's okay. You answered it.
Okay. Yeah.
Let Darryl.
I'm kind of on a journey. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, my name is Darryl, and I am also, in addition to working in the mental health field, I'm a consultant. I work with nonprofits. I do training in the mental health field in the DC, Maryland area, training folks to do the work they do in the core service agencies in DC, Maryland's mental health clinics. I'm a minister and a performing artist and a life coach. And there are many other things that kind of fall in there. An activist. I do a lot of work in politics. And so I'm a single parent. I've adopted a little girl. She is now 4. And I took custody of a teenager when he was 15, who is now 19. And most of the time he's out on his own, as some parents will understand what that means. And looking forward to relationships and sharing this life with others, another at least. What just happened? There we go. And was there more to the question? I know the baby got up. If I get up, the baby's gone to bed, but she doesn't like to go to bed. So if I leave and I'm gone, I might disappear because I'm trying to get her back settled. But she had to get up, and she didn't have to get up. She chose to get up.
Right.
Get her back.
It was a requirement. Okay, so Ms. Hatsheput, you said she didn't get to listen to the podcast, but did you get a chance to listen to the Therapy for Black Girls podcast that I sent you all? Okay, well, it's fine because I listened to it and I time-stamped the parts that I wanted to go over. So in here, that episode is talking about maintaining digital boundaries, but as a whole, they talk a lot about just setting boundaries in relationships. So instead of me trying to go over it, I'm gonna play the parts of it. But in the beginning, she defines that there are 6 types of boundaries that people cross in relationships. And they are physical, sexual, intellectual, sharing your feelings / emotional, and any emotional boundaries, people cross that by invalidating others' feelings or minimizing the way that they feel. Material boundaries, and in time. And in time, you mostly are crossing that your own self by not spending enough self-care. And with others, you're not knowing that others do not have the capacity to help you. So you are crossing their time boundary. So with those 6 boundaries, did you all have any input as it relates to that and how people cross those boundaries? Or maybe that they don't even understand those boundaries?
I think that's the bigger point, is that people don't always, especially the ones where you're crossing a boundary because you're trying to have your need met and you don't know that you're crossing someone else's boundary. I think there's a boundary that's not mentioned. I think the 7th boundary, if those 6 are valid, and I won't question that, but the other one is communication. And that you can cross those boundaries by, in many ways, you can not get to the boundary, meaning not communicate well. But that's a violation in many ways of a person's ability to be in relationship with you. If the communication is poor, if you choose not to communicate, if you don't learn how to communicate with your partner, then that's a problem, right? And so I guess when we're talking about boundaries, we're talking about things that become a problem and they interfere with the having a healthy relationship. So I would add that in and say that in many ways that one is sort of overarching and it touches all those other ways. If you don't know how to communicate well, then some people communicate physically. They communicate with anger. They communicate with distance. They communicate with passive resistance, or even passive aggressiveness. They communicate with violence in different ways, whether it's verbal violence, psychological violence. They intellectually putting people down, or bullying in the relationship, even though most people wouldn't think of it that way. But domestic violence and bullying can happen inside of a relationship when you are feeling like someone is trying to force or make something that is not naturally flowing in the way in which your relationship should. So if the communication is bad, all these kinds of things can happen. And because I'm saying I have a need, but I'm not able to tell you what that need is, and I could then violate, as you're saying, the woman described, that boundary that you might have around your time or other areas, because I don't know that you don't have, I'm demanding more than you're able to give. But how do I know that? And if you're not able to say to me, listen, I need a minute, I need some time, I can't, if you can't also say that back, and if I can't hear you say that, then we've got a bigger problem. So I think before you can get to those other 6 areas of boundary crossing and problematic areas, you have to really fix this issue of communication. How do people talk to each other? How do they listen to each other? How do they engage with each other? How can you be present for someone without necessarily having to say, and communication isn't always about what you say. So how can I be present for you in a way that matters and values you at the same time, without always having to fix it and solve it? And sometimes we can't solve it, but we can be a shoulder, we can be a arms to hold, we can be a face to kiss, we can be, those kinds of things that are really, really important.
We gonna hit that on one of these clips I'm gonna play.
Oh, boundaries! Wow. So I'm a storyteller. And I had a professor when I was in grad school. He was a therapist, and he was going on vacation with his partner, and he was telling us about his borderline personality client that he had, and he met with her that day, shared with her that he was going on vacation, gave her the name of the therapist who was taking his clients while he was away. He asked her, do you understand? Is everything clear? She said, Dr. Schwartz, go on vacation. You deserve it. If I have any needs, I'll call Dr. whatever the doctor was taking. Dr. Schwartz goes home. Him and his partner are packing. They're looking forward to their vacation. He gets a phone call from this client who is in a car with a gun to her head. And she says to him, if you don't come and see me right now, I'm going to kill myself. So we were on the edge of our seats in the grad school, like, okay, so what happened? And he said he was calm. He hung up. He dialed 911. He also called the other therapist to let that therapist know what was going on. And him and his partner went on vacation. Now, the first thing we would think is, oh, he probably just, decided to cancel his vacation. He taught us, and he enjoyed our class because he enjoyed doing a part-time grad students, because we were in the field. And he said, there is a time where you're going to have to say no, even if it appears to be a crisis, because you have laid the groundwork for your client. And he said, my partner and I were looking forward to this vacation. We had something in place. And he was telling us about being reactive. And I know for many years in my career, I would get reactive, especially when I worked in the school system. And it always seemed to occur at 3:30 on a Friday afternoon that I would get a phone call from a principal, a teacher, a social worker in the school, that Miss So-and-so and her family are about to be evicted that day. And in my first years in the school system, I was very reactive. As I started maturing in my career, I said to the principal, the teacher, or whomever called me, I am sure that Miss Doe can find some relative or someone that will at least take her children. And then we will revisit this on Monday. And sure enough, when I would come back to work on Monday, call the principal or the teacher or whomever had called me that afternoon. And I said, how is Miss Doe and her children? Miss Brown, because that's my government name, They were able to find someone. So what did that tell me? That I had to learn how to deal with distinguish boundaries. And even with my staff that I have a staff of three ladies right now, and I do a case management training with them. And I say to them, there are many times when you want to do more, but you have to also understand where your boundary. I had one who was called on a Saturday, and she called me. She said, Miss Brown, I'm with my children. It was not earth shattering. It was something that could be done the next on that Monday. And I said to her, call the client back, let them know that you understand what the situation is, and that you will take care of it on Monday. And so over the years, I have learned how to be able to not feel guilty or feel like, okay, maybe I should have did something, because at the end of the day, our job is to empower our clients, and whatever empowerment looks like to them, not to us, what it looks like to them, but for them to also understand that we have to have time for ourselves. Like, we're not 24/7, always on the run. Because I've had friends who have gotten burnt out, and I was kind of there at one point in this field, because you feel like I got to keep giving, and at some point you had to step back and say, no, I understand the need. We will get the need met, but it's not earth shattering. So I knew how to put that boundary between my, self and client. But I do agree with Darryl. Communication is key, because you get a lot of times when you hear them say, I'm good. Are you really? I'm good. And then they'll tell you you're good. And then a couple of days later, then it's like this big fiasco, because they weren't able to really communicate to you that I'm really not good. So,
yeah, I know Tawana wants to get to this clip, but let me just add what you just said has substitute that part of it is knowing there's two things that I think. A crisis for you does not necessarily mean a crisis for me. And also knowing, when is this something that I need or should engage in and respond to, and when is it something that I should not do or do not need to do that. And so in some situations, you can have a crisis call. It doesn't mean that because it's Saturday and it's your day off and you get a crisis call that you never respond to the crisis. There is a time when you may feel that you are the right person, that person is calling at that moment, and you can guide them through the process and give them some support.
I agree with that.
You have to be able to be willing to know the difference and not have a savior mentality, that we cannot save everyone, and it isn't our responsibility to save everyone, and it's definitely not my responsibility to save you from yourself. So if you've been doing things that are leading you down a path and you end up down that path, it isn't my job to get you off that path. It's my job to say, how do we get on this path? Now, what do you need to do to get off this path? And are you willing to do what you need to do to get off this path? And if so, let's start taking those steps. But this is the path you chose. And letting people take ownership, that is the best way to empower them, is to know that they had the power to make these decisions that got them here, and they therefore have the power to make decisions that will move them from here, rather than trying to, we have to change the perception. And even in church, we do this. We have to change the perception of what's expected of the pastor or the ministerial team. Like the ministerial team, they're perfect. We never say a bad word. We never have a problem. We don't have problems with our children. We don't have problems in our relationships. We don't have a time issue. Like, we are available for everyone anytime. You got your children's having a problem at home. Somebody else at the hospital. Somebody else is crying on the side of the street. We're supposed to be everywhere. We have to change that, those perceptions about professional people who are natural givers and helpers, because when I need help, I just need you, and I'm not thinking about you as an individual person, and that's not their job. They shouldn't be. They should be thinking about us in the capacity that they're reaching out to us in. That's normal. But we have to be the one to say, no, I am a person. I have a plan. If I'm on my way on a $1,000 cruise and you're having a crisis and I've given you all the tools to take care of yourself while I'm away, I'm not going to lose my my trip with my family or whoever I'm doing it with because of that. However, in the case of your supervisor, the thing is, we got to remember that if you've been working with your folks for a while, you know them. Right?
Exactly.
So your professor knew the person and knew that was probably one of many times sort of angling for attention, change of plan. How am I important to you? We know what their stuff is. So if we know what their stuff is, we have to act from the place of our knowledge and truth and not in the crisis.
I say.
So the stuff kind of goes to the next thing. She's talking about codependencies and one-sided relationships. So that's kind of what, kind of like what you're describing as one-sided relationships, and people who call themselves empathetic.
I definitely was going to hit that codependency issue.
And that's like, so is this thing trying to tell me I'm lagging? Must be lagging. And for me, this is definitely something that I see a struggle with other people who are calling themselves an empath. But I'm going to play this clip where she's defining it.
That I hear people throwing around quite a lot in terms of being an empath.
There are some people who are naturally like attuned to people's feelings and a little more drained by them. But it's very important to have boundaries and to have the separation between how I feel and how someone else is feeling. And if we're not able to do that, that could be very, empathetic of us, but it's also harmful to us because we're not able to operate in these relationships in a healthy way without feeling like this is something I have to do. So when people identify as empaths, I think it's a healthy term. I think the challenge is, even within that, how do we create boundaries around the behaviors of taking on other people's feelings? And so I'm always careful with my client to not establish that as like a identity that limits them from saying, I can't do this for you, because they feel like, well, it's just a part of who I am. And it's like, yeah, but it seems like you're not in a position to help this person. If you have the resources, then that's fine. So we have to be very careful with using that term and not applying it to, I can't have any boundaries because this is who I am. No, you can be a very empathetic person and still have boundaries.
Nedra, as we're talking.
So that kind of is what you just got done describing.
So wait, before you go, Tawana, let me just, so something that keeps ringing in my head, and I hear that conversation from the spiritual side of things, we would say that the spirit is subject to the prophet or to the person, right? So because I'm empathic, because I am able to intuit and I'm able to connect and I'm in tune with things, I'm still in control of that gifting and how I use it and when I apply it. So just because I can sense something and feel something, it doesn't mean that it's my responsibility to do something. Therapists, social workers, and helpers, ministers included, have to get out of the place. They have to deal with their own stuff of their need to be needed, because that's where the boundary problem comes in. If I need to be needed, then I have no boundaries, because I'm always going to be responding and reacting to everything somebody's throwing at me, because it makes me feel better to be needed, to be of service. But when I'm able to say, I don't need to be needed, I have the skill set and the ability to be helpful, so I'm going to do that when it's appropriate to do that. And I think that's the difference. Yeah,
I agree with that. Exactly what you said, Darryl. And you actually took the words, because I was going to say about the spirit part of, because we can be spiritually empath. Excuse me, it's been a long day. But again, I agree with you that because I've known people to say, I'm an empath. I'm like, so do you really understand what that means? Are you talking to me spiritually, or because right? Because, and then you'll hear the well, I just can't see the person, I got to do something. Like, but do do you really need to do something, or is it better for you to be empathetic, but speak with them as far as how they can come out of the situation,
Right.
And how you can guide them out of the situation.
Right.
Because
So
go ahead. No, go ahead.
now I was gonna say I want to follow that up about this empath with a person who is counter dependent, knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable, and I want to tie the two together because, like I said, this is something that for me personally is a struggle as it comes to relationships. So I want her to define what she said is counter dependent.
Learning that people cannot be there for you, and so you start to take on this identity of, you know, counter dependency. Other people can't help me. You start to be uncomfortable being vulnerable with people. You may start to not be able to accept help. One of the exercises that I have my clients do that are counter dependent is the silliest thing. And they'd be like, why do I have to do this? But I say, when you go to the grocery store and they say, do you want me to help you to your car? Say yes. Say yes. It's their whole job to help you. But we get so in the mode of, no, I could do everything myself.
And then follow it up with this one. I wish I can do it perfectly where I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It won't go perfectly. So I have to go back a little
and you're
bit.
the strong one, and reshaping a lot of our conversations, because sometimes people believe that because we are demonstrating that we don't need people. And sometimes they're demonstrating that because we're not letting them in. And so we have to be very clear that we all need people. Everyone needs people, even the strong. We need people. And so that.
So like she said with the empath, right? To understand that you may have the resources to help someone, but understand that you can't help that person, right? You may take on, you know, whatever, the emotional baggage or whatever, along with the person that I understand, I kind of now understand myself to be, is the counter-dependent person, the strong one. But that's because that's what people have said, right? And maybe that's what I display. I display to people as the strong one. I definitely don't like to ask people for help. But coming across these people who call themselves an empath, and you're helping me because you're so empathetic. But when I ask you for the help, or you deliver that help to me, and it isn't like quite the help that I need, or it comes with all this extra, I'm gonna call it baggage. It comes with all this extra baggage. It's like, well, why did I ask you for help? Or why did I accept your help? Because you can't help me. You're making this worse for me now. Because you were so empathetic, you just had to help me, but maybe you just had the resources to help me. And maybe you should have just helped me that way. As you maybe as a resource to kind of point you in that direction, or kind of do that right here. But maybe I didn't need you to get involved. Because by your involvement and me accepting your help, you have added a lot more stress to me that I did not need. Because I could have just handled it, you know, my own self, which is what I've always been doing. So for me, that's the struggle, right? Trying to accept, okay, maybe, all right, let me go ahead and just let people know I'm a bit vulnerable. I need some help. I'll accept your help. But, and it goes into the next clip that I'm gonna play too. But just on that right there, like what are you guys?
Part of this is defining, you know, help. The challenge is that the way folks are talking about help, and the way I hear you saying, is help means doing something. And there is a continuum of what help is. Help could be, listen, here's a phone number, call this 9. Call, and in DC, and in Maryland area, we took call 311. If where a resource is, where to get something, call the mayor's hotline or the county hotline. They will direct you to services and the agencies that are available to help you. They're open 24/7. You don't have to call 911. You can call 311. You know, you can call. There are places you can call, things you can do. I don't have to handhold it for you. I have to take you down to the office and help you fill out an application to get support for whatever it is you're looking for, right? That I could help do that if that's what you needed. Sometimes we have to ask the person, what is it that you need help with? What is it that you want? And just because they say, well, I need somebody to come over and take me somewhere and do this and do that, doesn't mean you're going to do all that. You just know what it is that they want. And then you can redirect them and say, well, I know that you want that, but what you can do is, I'm going to get you the right information. You can get there. You can do it on your own. Because at the end of the day, it gets to your conversation about codependency, again, the need to be needed. Right? I want to do all of this stuff because I'm codependent on you needing me to validate who I am and validate the work that I do as valid. So I need you to need me, and I need you to acknowledge that I was the one who did this for you so that I can then feel validated in myself. And that's the wrong direction in the first place. So sometimes help is there's a continuum of that, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do anything or be involved in any direct way with someone and with what's going on in their lives.
When you say the codependent, are you talking about the empath? Because I said counterdependent.
You talking about counter? Yeah, I wanted to speak to what you were saying.
Oh, counterdependence. Okay.
To on it. So. And I actually just put something on my post today about mental health. And I said that, you know, we as melanated people have always been told, you know, don't air your dirty laundry. I'm tying this in. Get over it. And I said, especially for melanated women of color, we hold this mantle that I have to show that I'm strong, you know, that I got it all together, even if I don't have it all together. And where in my journey, I have realized that, because I get it to, you know, I had friends, you know, I used to try to tell my friends, I'm like, no, I'm not really having a good day. Oh, but you know, I had a friend tell me years ago, you don't look like how you feel. You know, and I said, well, thank you. But I really was trying to tell her that I'm not doing well. But because you see this strength, or, you know, I guess strength, I even heard her tell me, you don't seem like you ever need help. And I said, if only, because we have been put on this stereotype that we have to be the superwoman. And it took me going through my journey in 2016, and I went to the spiritual center in Northwest DC. I was going to church at the time, but I went to the center, and I heard the facilitator say that at some point you have to own your, and I'm not going to curse on here. And, you know, here I am believing like, okay, all I got to do is take it to the Savior. And then you're telling me that, you know what, you got to own it. And then realize that you are not this, you know, superwoman and you know, leaping off of buildings like Clark, you know, Superman or what have you. But you need to go deep within and find out what is going on, you know, even though we were showing the strength, the strongness, there's the insecurities, you know, there's the, you know, I don't want to be seen as weak. And what she said to me, and we're still friends to this day, she's like one of my spiritual mentors, that when you go within, I know you've heard this term, know thyself. I had heard that term so many times until I started doing this work. And I said, okay, I am not this strong woman. You know, I'm 24/7. There are times when I am vulnerable. I don't have a problem showing you my vulnerability. And to speak to what you were saying about, okay, the person helps you and then you get all the baggage. What I have said to people, I said, look, this is where I am right now. I really accept your help if you want to help me. But understand that this, this is temporary and I will get through it. And I'm sure you're going to you may have a lecture to give me and, and all of that. Yes. I welcome it because there is a lesson. I realize that I believe in the law of attraction. So if that happened, I say to myself, okay, I attracted this person in my life. So I go to the Most High and the ancestors and say, why are they here? And so, I'll help you. I've had relatives that say, yeah, now I'm gonna help you, but blah, blah, blah. And I get the, and when I started on the journey, I said, I thank you. And you are absolutely correct. And I need to go back and look at what it is that has hindered me from, being able to help myself. And I guarantee you'll see me again, and you'll see that I have been able to help myself in ABC situation. And instead of like getting frustrated with them, especially if they're your elders, and getting frustrated, or where I say thank you. I go, like I said, I meditate and I say, why did I attract them, and what lesson is it I'm supposed to learn? And that strong woman thing, I had to get to a point where there are times when I am strong, there are times that I'm not. And I'm okay when I'm not. It doesn't make me less spiritual, less good of a social worker, whatever. It is who I am. And a lot of it, like I was sharing with you before we came on the broadcast, I've been doing a lot of internal work, through this journey. And realizing like I could just take this layer off, that facade that I am woman here, rule. I am a woman who is still working through her journey, and it is her hope that her journey comes out very positive, because it will. And I hope I answered your question, because I know I went somewhere with that. But
what I loved about what you said, Hatsheput, is when you talk about going to the Most High and the ancestors, right? I wanted to say earlier also that we have to recognize that while we are human beings, part of our nature is connection with others. And so while some people may be more attuned to their empathic ability, we all have it, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are so full of them that they can't hear anybody else, right? And some people are so full of hurt and trauma that they can't hear anything else. And some people are so looking for something outside of themselves for validation that they can't hear anything else. There are lots of reasons why people may not be attuned to their natural ability in terms of our ability to connect at that level. But when you said about being a strong woman, it made me think about the fact that I am this strong guy. And what are these things when we say, well, what about strong people? Who is there for strong people when they hit the point of tears and needing help? What I've come to realize is that we are all still strong. You're strong even when that's happening. You're not weak. You're strong, but you are strong in a way that also has some cracks. So you need some support and some pulling things up. So you're strong because you're holding this weight on, but it's heavy. So sometimes you need a little help to help you get back up on your feet and continue what you're doing. So it's not a matter of weakness to need help or to need assistance. It's actually, my grandfather told me that the sign of being a true adult is knowing when you need help and asking for it and accepting it when it comes. Like, because I went away, there were times when I went away to college and I was hungry, didn't have food or whatever, and I didn't call home and I asked because I said, well, I didn't want to call you up because I knew that other relatives were always there, always asking, always needing, and they were right with you. And I figured I could find a way to be okay. And my grandfather was like, yeah, but that's you trying to be an adult, great. However, to be a real adult sometimes means to know that you need some help. And it's immature to say, I got to do this by myself. I can't ask for help. Nobody can do it but me. It's a very immature place to be, and it's unhealthy. So we have to give ourselves grace to be open to that and to be open to the help. And at the same time, The balance is knowing when you are being asked to be of help, or when you're in a position to be of help, what is it that I should be right now? Should I be engaged in this helping behavior, or should I be a funnel of knowledge? Should I be a conduit of information that will help them to do it for themselves? Or is this one of those days where this person is so beat down and so hurt that I really got to go pick them up, hold their hand, and walk them down the street? There are those days, but most days should not be those days.
Yeah,
I say
that's a good word.
Yes.
That my husband and I had talked about a long time ago, about sometimes you may not be the one to help. You may just be the one to point them in the right direction, which, yeah, that kind of, so the next part, she talks about dysfunctional families and you wanting to be the one to kind of move away from that. And I broke it up into bits, but it may be easier just to play the whole thing. It's almost 3 minutes. It's almost 3 minutes. It may be easier just to play it.
With your first order of $30 or more, but you have to use our special code. Go to grove.co/TBG to get your exclusive offer. That's grove.co/TBG.
Look, guess my
Andrew,
writing
is
was
there
wrong.
a difference or any subtleties towards when someone might develop a strategy of being codependent versus counterdependent?
I would say so. When we look at dysfunctional families, there are certainly some people in the family who are more comfortable being like everyone else in the family. And then there are people who are cycle breakers who are like, I don't want this thing. And I think sometimes when a person is a cycle breaker or they are stepping away from a system of something, it is easier to maybe develop, I don't need people, but you have to step away and still need people. Now, it may not be the system of support in your family, but it could be a system of support outside your family or a few people from your family. It really depends. But I think sometimes when you are becoming different than everyone else, it's kind of like that black sheep. You start to develop this identity of, I have to do everything by myself, and really starting to minimize the need of support from other people, which is an important step in being a healthy person. We need other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can imagine that there are some people enjoying our conversation right now who are like just kind of shaking at the idea of having to ask for help, right? And we know how often this does show up for Black women specifically, right? Like this identity of the strong one, whether that is something we claim ourselves or something other people put on us. It is very much a narrative that is kind of, prevalent among Black women. So you've already offered the idea of like letting people help at the grocery store, or, proudly sharing that it's your birthday and you're accepting gifts. Are there other things that people who struggle with asking for help could practice doing?
Asking the right people is the biggest thing, because sometimes we develop this mindset that nobody will help us, but the nobody we're talking about are two people who won't help you, and they've consistently not helped you. Meanwhile, you have 152 people in your life, but relying on those two people who have proven that they cannot do it will make you think like nobody will do it. And it's typically not nobody, but we have to figure out who can help us, who is willing to help us. And sometimes that's stepping away from the people that you think should be helping you and moving towards some of these other people who are more capable, because it might not be everybody, but we have to set ourselves up for success. And so if we go to, a few people and you're consistently unavailable, perhaps just thinking of other people and not stopping there and saying, there's no one to help me. It's not those people. So what other people can you find to have supportive relationships with?
Yeah, and I think that that's important to explore, because I wonder if the same two people you're going to are the same two people that you're always showing up for, right? So the idea is that, of course, they're going to be there for me because I'm always there for them, when that, of course, might not be the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
let me jump in. They're saying some good stuff. The first thing I want to try backwards: insanity. doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I keep going to the same people, asking them to do things, and they've consistently not been able to do it. I'm insane. That's insanity. To think that somehow they're going to suddenly change when they have shown you. Maya Angelou told us, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them when, not the 10th time, not the second time, not the third time, believe them the first time. And you will, and move on. Because why people are in each other's lives may not be a reciprocity related thing. So my relationship with Tawana may be very different than my relationship with Hatsheput. Right? And so I may go to Tawana for a lot of help, whereas Hatsheput comes to me for help, right? But there's balance there, because when I'm giving of myself to help someone else is there to pour into me. It doesn't have to be the same person in reverse, right? So so asking for help, I think, from people who you know aren't going to do it or have never shown themselves to be dependable is a form of being a victim. It's being this victim mentality that says, nobody loves me, nobody cares. I do all this stuff for all these people and nobody does anything for me in return. Woe is me. And they say, I bet you this year, if I do 5 things for people, nobody's going to do anything back for me, right? And they ignore all the things that other people in their lives are doing for them that may not be the things they were asking for. So we ask the universe to bless us. We ask the Most High to bless us. We get blessings, and we look at the blessing and say, okay, that wasn't what I wanted. So where's my blessing? And we keep looking for something from somewhere. I like the term codependence, counterdependence. Those are things that are out there, and they're fun titles, fun things to play around with, right? But I prefer to try to teach people and guide people towards interdependence, where we're not teaching people to be independent, which is what counterdependence is really sort of leaning itself to, the independent. I don't need anybody, me against the world. I got it. It's also, I'm the greatest. It leads to that narcissistic. I can be all things. I'm great, and no one can do whatever, right? But that independence and that codependence is just sort of an unhealthy need to be needed, kind of in going back and forth, right? But interdependence says, I can do many things. I may be able to do most things, but I can do most things better with somebody else. That we can do some things together. We can build more together. There's an African proverb that talks about, if you tie one string is easily broken. 2 strings bound together are also pretty easily broken, but a cord of 3 is much harder to break. So the more cords you bind together, the harder it is to break. So you can try this not with cords, but you can take sticks. If you take a couple of pencils, and I don't have pencils here, but you take a couple, I got one. You take a pencil here, you can break it. If I put these pens and pencils together, I can't break them. And I only have 3 of them, right? Now, and so the reality is that is the principle of the African proverb is true. And so it is about us and about our relationship. If we can build strong bonds with another person, we are not easily broken because we're not by ourselves. But each pencil remains an individual pencil. It doesn't become one, it doesn't morph into one bold, gigantic pencil. There's still 3 different pencils or 3 different sticks or 3 cords. They're independent. They have their own lives, their own experiences. But when they are woven together, they're stronger together. So even if I'm doing something over here, I've got this connection to people that I'm not alone in this. And I know I'm not alone. So even if I feel like I'm alone, sitting on the side of the road somewhere, crying my heart out, I know that I'm not alone. And once I get done crying, which is a healthy thing to do, men and women, please cry when you need to. But when you get done crying, wipe your face and call the one you know you can depend on, who's going to say, I'm glad you cried. I felt you. I felt something was going on with you. I'm glad you got it out. Now what we need to do, what we're ready to do, what we're going to do, and go ahead.
And then the definition of family. So, I had a beautiful aunt who transitioned 3 years ago. And my aunt was the person I went to because I had, my challenges growing up. And my aunt used to always say, she said, you'll never know who will be there to help you. And she said, it may not always be biological family because, you've heard the story, or you've heard the term family is all you have.
Yeah.
But what does that look like? You know, and I really believe my aunt was like prophetic, because I would come back to her, especially as I became an adult, and I said, you know what, Auntie, you said that you'll never know who would help you. And I started, and now I'll say attract people that were not my family members. Like one of my friends called me that night, I hadn't talked to him in a while. And he said, so who's your community now? Because he thinks I'm a little different, And I said to him, I said, I have this community of spiritually conscious people that, I mean, I talk to them every day, but I know if I call them, that they will be there, And I think a lot about what my aunt said about who will be there for you, like we just kind of believe that family's going to always be there. But then we put a definition on what family is. Family can be a community that you find yourself attracting to or going to because of like minds, as opposed to like the biological family. And not to say that your biological family can't be there for you, but I have noticed, and even in some of the clients, I have had clients over my years in a career as a social worker who I used to say, if I could give you the Mother of the Year award or whatever, because I've had clients that were like in hotel rooms whose children were going to school. And I can think of one mother now, and I don't know where her parents were or anything, but she had an uncle, and she was out wanting to look for a home and was waiting for, she was going to find a home. Then social services, they had a program I forget what that program's called now, but they had come out and inspect the home. And this woman was diligent. She had this one uncle, I think it was her mother's brother, who told her, I'm going to be there for you. And she called me and said, Miss Brown, I found this house. Now I got to have, social services come out. And I really thank my uncle, and I was like, wow. She never said that I don't have anybody, or she felt like she had to she did a lot of the legwork on her, independently. But she did tell me about this one uncle, and I think I never got a chance to physically meet him, but talked to him on the phone. I said, Mr. So-and-so, thank you for being there for your niece, because she always, when we said, who was your support? She always talked about this uncle. And I said, wow, not this whole gathering of family members, but this one, like you were saying, Darryl, cry. And she had her dark days. She cried, wiped them tears, put them children on the school bus, left that hotel room, called her uncle. And I was like, wow, totally, like you said, interdependent, like I'm not just going to lay down and say no one is there, because she had one person. If nothing else, she had one.
Yeah, so when about dysfunction,
somebody got it. I mean, somebody dysfunction. I mean, I had an alcoholic mother. My father raised me because my mom was alcoholic, and I guess you would consider
it's an echo coming from somebody.
Oh, well, I got everything cut off, so
I only hear it when you're talking, Tawana.
Really? Yeah. Bad host.
Oh, that's okay. But yeah,
I just turn this down then. But when the dysfunction of the family, and you trying to be different, and knowing who to ask for help, right? Just because somebody has a title. Mm-hmm. So in my counterdependence, what I have been doing over the last umpteen years, that my biological family, because obviously, I am a bit different, because I am the one who was in the military, the one who is no longer, you know, in the hometown. So asking my biological family for help in any type of way would not be of great benefit to me or to them. Also, because, be it told, these 6 type of well, not number 2, not sexual, but these other 5 boundaries are crossed in my family. So to ask them for help, no, you have all type of boundaries. So as you were saying, you know, you may ask, you know, the ancestors, whatever, what are you supposed to learn? And you may say, I thank you for your what'd you say?
Feedback or
criticism.
Feedback.
I'm sorry, I can't help. No, I don't accept it, because asking the right person would be that family that has been built, you know, through our many years, you know, of moving and living elsewhere. We have family, you know. My kids have their other grandmothers and uncles and aunties and stuff who are, you know, who are there for them and, you know, for us. So yeah, all of that comes together to this TED Talk that I wanted to play, you guys, before we end on talking about devices, your boundaries with devices. I want to play this TED Talk, which I think ended perfectly with the asking the right people. She talks about the 5 people you need to be happy. So I'm going to try to share screen with you. See if split screen works here. Y'all see that screen over here? Okay. It look kind of choppy.
Five people that you choose to associate with the most. I happen to agree with him. And I believe that those 5 people need to be your cheerleader, your mentor, your coach, a friend, and a peer. Now, let me tell you how I caught happiness, because I really want you to catch hold of what I'm telling you today. And the way that I caught happiness, it was sort of very early in my life. So we'll go back.
So I don't remember where in this TED Talk she wrote down each person, but that is a good TED Talk to go catch. I don't know if y'all wrote that down, all those 5 different people, but basically, you know, the mentor is different from the friend, who's different from the coach, who's different from your cheerleader, and whatever else she said.
Can you put that TED Talk in a banner so it runs across so we can get that link?
Yes, sir. Very good idea.
But what I would say is that, you know,
we're gonna put it in the show notes.
Yeah, but what I would say is that that, you know, those of us who might do a TED Talk one day, or a D3 Talk, which are the ones that I want to do and create, or anything else, we're all going to have a different way of saying some of the same things. There's really nothing new under the sun, right? And so that she defined those roles in those ways, I can accept that as her truth and the way that she wants to approach that. But in my world, I might say that a coach and a cheerleader are so closely aligned. But again, my point is not to critique her. It's to say that find the if she's using the number 5, right? Somebody might say you need 3 good people, right? Like I use that core thing, right? And somebody else might say, you know, my favorite number is 7, so I might want to get some people, you know, in my life. But you know, there is a person I think that was missing from her list if I added in, and that is someone that there is an intimacy with. That's not just a friend, but more. There's another level of intimacy that each of those has a different role in terms of intimacy. A coach, a cheerleader, a friend. Whatever, those are different levels, and each of those has a certain kind of intimacy. So I'm referring to someone that is a love intimacy, so that area of your life is also being fulfilled. Now, again, there are people that are polyamorous, There are people that are monogamous. There are people that are pansexual. There are people that are asexual or non-sexual. So it's not always about sex. Intimacy is in and of itself not about sexual acts, right? But about the ability to have someone that is so close to you that you share the most private parts, the most hurt parts, but the most joyful parts as well, differently than you would with a parent or a family member, right? I don't think it's a bad idea that you have at least one family person that is, however you define that, whether it's a biological family, if you have them. Some people don't have any more biological family. They were adopted and they don't know their bio family. And they were a single child, and their parents are gone, right? And there were no other, they have no siblings, none of that. So family can be, as Hatsheput has said, can be extended or can be your chosen family as well. And that can be just as powerful. But someone that you think of when you say family, it's different than saying, this is my friend. When I say this is my sister or this is my brother, even if they're not biologically related to me or legally in some other way related to me, there's a different connotation to that closeness, and that what that means to the person. So I think what you have to find is what do you value, and then find those people who may live in different spheres of your life. Like she's identified 5 different spheres, but find the values that you have and then go for what you need, and that may change. Again, for me, that may change in different situations. I may have a different sort of spiritual, which is another place that I would add a person. Like I may have a different spiritual connection to someone in a certain set of issues. And then when I need to deal with something else, I might call a different person for that. And altogether, there might be one person that I know gets me at a spiritual level. And I can tell them anything, but they're not the first one I reach out to. I get to them after I went through these other folks first, right? So it really just depends. I love what you put out there. I love that you found that video. I am going to watch it and go look back at that and see more of what she's saying. I love hearing anyone that's got something good and positive to say, and they're sharing out of their heart and out of their experience. And my encouragement to people is take from this talk, from all the ones that the RealRam TLee is doing, and anything else that you're watching, take from it what you need, file the rest of it away, discard the stuff that doesn't have any applicability for you. But don't just throw it all away. Hold on to some stuff, even if you can't use it right now. That sounds like it might be good. I'm gonna hold on to that in the back of my consciousness. But this other stuff right here, I'm gonna use this right now, right? That's what's going to be powerful for you as you make changes in your life and whatever you're doing.
I agree. I can't really add any more to that. I totally agree. I will say, when you were talking about Darryl, going to who you value, and I put more emphasis on that than what she said about the cheerleader, because I agree with you. Like a cheerleader and your coach could be one and the same. So, and again, not to discredit what she's saying, but I think the key thing I heard that you were saying, Darryl, is what do you value? And then again, I'm believing in law of attraction. Then that's the people that you will attract, and they will be your coach, your cheerleader, your peer, your friend, and I forgot the 5th one. I forgot which one that was, but when you center yourself, which I have been doing it for 4 years, and saying, okay, who are the people that's supposed to be in my life, and put it out there in the universe, and then allow that attract those people that have the same value. And we may have the same value. That doesn't mean we always have to agree, but then those just sit and allow those. I waited patiently and just allow those people to come into my life. That's my take on it.
Because you need that person that's in your corner who is going to tell you the truth.
Yes.
Not just cheerlead for you.
Yes.
Because a cheerleader's going, yes, go. And somebody says, come sit yourself down right now. You need that person that's going to tell you, shut up, sit down. What?
Yeah.
No. Are you? And the person that will say to you, "Are you listening to yourself right now? Just stop. Do you hear yourself? Like you need that person who's going to reflect back that mirror to say, what are you talking about? What are you doing? How are you doing this to yourself? You know, and the person that there's a person when you have this feeling of someone that loves you unconditionally beyond for no reason. I had a situation, someone I was in a relationship with when I was in college. And for a really long time, we remained the best of friends. They got married, they had children. I still was a part of their lives. I knew the spouse that they got married to, and we all went to college together. So we didn't have a good relationship at first for some other stuff, but eventually it was fine, right? But that person used to say to me some things that just made me feel like I knew that I was loved at the core of my beingness by this person. So when I moved away and was trying to have other relationships, my cousin said to me, do you realize that every time you're talking about somebody that you might have an interest in, you're always referring to that other person who, and I don't know who that person is in your life, but you can't have a healthy relationship if you're comparing them to that person. And I didn't know I was doing it, but my cousin had to point it out to me to say, oh, you know why? It's because that person loves me even when I'm bad, even when I'm wrong, even when I am mistaken, even when I'm confused. And when I'm on and everything is great, they still love me. And you want that in someone. Yeah. And we need that in someone. So I think there's a lot of things that we need to look for. I love the law of attraction. I think everyone should watch, read, listen to The Secret. There are other ways to get it, but that is the one how I found it. But remember that the universal laws, the law of attraction is one of the universal laws. Yes. There are many of them, and they all work together. And the reality is, whether or not you know it, you're using them. The object is to know them so that you use them for your benefit and not just for whatever happens. Because, you know, if you put something out, it's going to come back. Karma is a real thing. Right. When you know that, you can be intentional about your behavior and intentional about your thinking and intentional about your reaction to things, knowing that if I do this, something's coming back at me. And do I want that work? Do I want that? If I don't want that, then I got to control my mouth. I got to control my thinking. I got to control what I do with other people, because the principle is going to act on me regardless. And I think that's the place of power, is when we know and we manage our lives from a place of being in control of ourselves. And that for me is my work as a life coach, as a therapist, as a minister, as an artist, as a political person, trying to fight for change. It's really about empowering people to know that you can do this for yourself. You can't do all of it by yourself, but you are in charge of it as it relates to yourself. You have the control. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Hey, that word got in you. It got up in that soul.
Don't get me started. It's a Saturday night and it's Sunday tomorrow. Don't get me started.
So when we'll skip the digital boundaries so that I can post the link in the show notes and people can go check out this podcast, because I surely would hate for YouTube to remove my video for copyright by because I played a whole lot from her doggone podcast. But yeah, I think it was a good conversation. Yeah.
She's freezing. You on mute. You're on mute. Yeah.
Got circling my page.
She's lagging.
In case y'all do hear me, I'm just gonna keep talking.
Okay.
We talked a lot now. We talked a lot about regular relationships, expectations. I forgot what Big Mike had called it. Oh man. But people, please go back and check out part 1 of relationships and expectations and the mic drop. As I want y'all to check out Inner Light Thrive. That's a nonprofit that I'm a part of by Mr. Darryl.
I think you're freezing a little bit.
Yeah.
So she was saying that Inner Light Thrive Live. Check us out. We have a Facebook page. You can check us, like us. We're going live with some new materials around substance abuse and mental health and in our community. So we would love to have you on. If anyone has a story you want to share, we're open to that as well. Tawana, I just want to say Tawana is doing some amazing things with her platform, with her work. She is a tremendous, when she mentioned in the introduction that social work is beyond the things that you might think about, this that she's doing is social work. And it is in my way, in my belief, some of the true social work in terms of working to change, be a change agent in the world for people and for communities and for families and for our society as a whole. And so, Tawana, I think that if anything, that you need to be in Wikipedia, and there needs to be a bookmark by your name saying that you contribute to the growth and development and the change in society in this 21st century.
Oh, well, thank you. You're trying to blow me up right now. What is it? Inner Light Thrive on Facebook. Okay, so we, as well as YouTube, because the same thing on YouTube as well. So before we end, I want you guys to answer my question. Y'all serving us breakfast? Are you gonna choose pancakes or waffles?
Maybe pancakes for me.
Pancakes.
Where? So are we cooking it or are we going somewhere for it?
No, you're serving it. You cooking it. You serving us breakfast.
Oh, if I'm serving it, then I don't have a waffle maker, so I'm making pancakes. If I had a waffle maker, I'd say, why am I making a choice? I'm gonna make you both. Have what you want.
Hey, if that's your answer.
If somebody wants French toast, I can throw that in there too.
That wasn't an option. Pancakes.
I'm just saying.
Pancakes and waffles. I'm a pancake person. I will eat waffles, but no, I would choose pancakes first every time. Every time. So I would like to thank
we got 3 pancake people in here, right?
Yeah, it's a few of them. Thank you, Darryl and Hatsheput, and thank you all for.
No. It's no problem.
I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I would like to thank my guests for joining me, or simply thank you for watching the pre-recorded episode. No matter what your birth order is, how you self-identify, and whether you like pancakes or waffles. If this is the first time you're hearing it today, I want you to know that you are loved. You were put here for a purpose that only you can fulfill. Until next time, take care of yourself. Be sure that you like and share the videos, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notifications bell. This is RealRam out.